Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. So the commission led by Erskine Bowles, by Senator Al Simpson, the enemy of older Americans, but with the staff coming from Peter Peterson, the former president of Lehman Brothers and a leading hedge fund hyena, zombie banker type. A couple of things coming from them. Andy Stern, the former head of the SEIU, and you know what we've had to say about that. That's a strike-breaking union, and Andy Stern is the top scab, or was the top scab, at the SEIU. He comes out saying it's time to sink money from Social Security into Wall Street to get better returns. And we've also got to watch out for Nancy Altman of this website, Social Security Works. She wants to defend Social Security by putting some of it into Wall Street. Now, what is the attraction? In the real world, there's none. You look at the Dow Jones, even after a couple of days of hysteria, it is not much higher. It's actually lower. If you use a constant dollar Dow, your Dow today is way below where it was 10 years ago in the summer of 2000. Way below. It's way below where it was in the early months of 2000, before the dot-com bubble blew up. The whole point of Social Security is to get beyond the range of risk and speculation and stock market crashes and panics and disintegrations and all the rest of it, collapses in the value of these securities. You're much better off in treasuries, much safer. You've done much better in a judiciously managed treasury portfolio. And those, of course, are the IOUs that these reactionaries say, oh, those are just pieces of paper. No, those are the bonded debt of the United States of America, never defaulted. And if we can keep Peter Schiff away from the issue, and Newt Gingrich and Domenici while he was in there, it will never default. Why would it ever default? This can all be managed. This is obvious enough. But anyway, you see that it's a bipartisan effort. We've got austerity ghouls and austerity vampires from both sides of the aisle, as they say. So here's Andy Stern saying, yeah, put some of it into Wall Street. Well, the answer to that is no, 1,000 times no, and there's just no point. Why do it? Look at this. We've crossed the 10,000 mark 60 to 70 times. Now, who's going to fight this? Let's put on our skeptical cap, but let's also be aware of what's going on. Here we have the Washington Post editorial board, and they have a meeting with Rich Trumka, formerly the head of the United Mine Workers. He's now the head of the AFL-CIO. He's the president of the union. So he's trying to convince the Washington Post editorial board, and that's a nest of finance oligarchs, of course. It's basically the house organ of the Federal Reserve System, the anti-Roosevelt majority of the Federal Reserve System found this as their newspaper back in the 1930s. So Trumka wants to show between 1947 and 1973, the rich got richer, but the percentage gains of the middle class were even better. The household income of the middle 20% of Americans doubled, while the income of the top 20 rose 85%, but not as much as the rest. And this is about the way it should be. The rising tide that raises all boats. The name for that is the New Deal, the mature New Deal. Between 1947 and 1973. That's the New Deal in its full development. It's the thing that all these Republicans are nostalgic for, the 1950s when a single paycheck could raise a family. Yeah, that means a high-wage economy, bozos. After 1973, the income of the middle class barely rises. From 1973 to 2006, they say 24% increase. It's not a 24% increase. This is done by family income. And this, of course, means many more jobs. Not one, not two, but 3, 4, 5, who knows how many. But the top 20% grew at 3 times the rate. Well, what happened? 1971, August 15th, the destruction of the Bretton Woods fixed parity system, the New Deal for the world, in effect, was Bretton Woods. destroyed by Nixon, Kissinger under pressure from the British, not the French, but the British. And, of course, real wages in the U.S. top between 1967 and 73-74. According to the official government statistics that Trumka's using, the real wages top between 73-74 and then begin to go down. So Trumka says we don't have an entitlement problem. We have a revenue problem. The rich should pay more. The top rates for the rich should be 72.4 and 76.8 over, well, this was when you're up in the millions. And they say, oh, no, this is insane, says the Washington Post. Insane. Well, it was 90 under Roosevelt, 70 under Kennedy, I believe. That worked a whole lot better, didn't it? Of course, you've got to get the other policy elements into view. Should the retirement age be increased? Trumka erupts. His father worked for 44 years in the coal mines. If you have to work until you're 63, that could be a death sentence, and they have to give him that one. Lift the cap, remove the cap on earnings. In other words, all wages taxed with the Social Security tax. A good idea. But how about now they want to attack the unions? Let's join in the reactionary attack on the public sector unions, says the Washington Post. Those generous pensions and health benefits, are they affordable? Shouldn't they have to sacrifice? Trumka bursts with outrage. Were they the ones that caused this crisis? Were they the ones that lost 20% of the wealth in this country? Well, you better target those hedge fund hyenas, zombie bankers, and derivatives mongers, Rich, but certainly he's on the right track. Why is it hard? Can it be defended that people make so much money in the public sector? Yeah, they have the brains to have unions. Trumka says, why is it hard to defend these public wages when a guy in a hedge fund made $4.4 billion last year? Well, you can see this. The question is, and this is my question to Trumka, will you fight? Will you fight? How about a general strike? If that austerity ghoul commission with Bowles and Al Simpson and all the jackals from the Peterson Institute and Andy Stern of Wall Street, if they come forward with these austerity plans, and that can include a value-added tax, I want the right-wingers to be involved in this too, as they definitely should be, because this is going to be everything. It's going to be revenue enhancement. They're going to gouge you on the tax side, and they're going to take away your services, take away your pension, take away your health care, and all the rest under Obama, but with these Republicans, as we've just heard, Judd Gregg and Ryan joining in. Trumka, will you fight? Is there going to be a general strike? Tell us when. We're hot to trot. We want to fight. What are we going to do? And, of course, from a policy point of view, how can you go there and not talk about a Tobin tax? How can you not? When the AFL-CIO is officially calling for a Tobin tax, are they fighting for a Tobin tax? Is that just a throwaway line? Is it just a position that they have that don't really fight for, right? In other words, is it propaganda that they just say would be nice, or is it agitation where you say, we want this and we want it now? Speaking of a Tobin tax, in the same issue of The Hill, this very interesting issue that I came upon this week, Wednesday, July 7th issue, Lanny Davis, the lawyer for the Clintons, right, supporter of the Clintons and a kind of a client, family retainer of the Clintons. He's been on the austerity side, but he's interested in a Tobin tax, and we'll get to that in just a minute, because that's the way out. If you have a Tobin tax, you can fight back. If you don't have a Tobin tax, you're a sitting duck for a VAT and to have your pension taken away. Back in just a minute.